2007, a factory floor in Arafiye, a small industrial city on the western edge of Turkey. Engineers from a company called Otokar are gathered around a drawing board, arguing over the geometry of a steel hull. The argument is not about aesthetics. It is about survival. It is about what angle a floor must be cut at to redirect the force of a buried mine away from the men sitting above it. The engineers are not working on a government contract. There is no ministry funding behind them. The Turkish state has not commissioned this vehicle. Every lira being spent in this room is coming from Otokar's own pocket, on a bet that a machine they have not yet built will one day be wanted by armies they have not yet spoken to. What rolled out of that factory 3 years later looked, to most observers, like a practical machine, boxy, high clearance, 6 wheels turning on independent suspension. No visual drama, no lines suggesting speed or aggression. It was the sort of vehicle a critical eye might dismiss before it had even moved, a product from a second-tier defense industry in a country that had spent decades assembling other nations' designs, under license rather than generating its own. That dismissal would have been a mistake, a serious one. The Otokar Armour 6x6 would go on to be purchased by a Gulf state that immediately deployed it to one of the most brutal ground wars of the 21st century. It would win a competitive NATO tender against European and North American rivals, placing it inside a military alliance whose member states had spent the previous 2 decades setting the global standard for armoured vehicle protection. It would spawn a derivative worth $661 million, the largest single defence export contract in Turkish history at the time it was signed, and it would do all of this while its home country's own army chose a different vehicle entirely. Its designation is the Armour 6x6, and it is the machine that proved Turkey could design, engineer and sell a world-class armoured vehicle on its own terms. To understand why the Armour exists, you need to understand what Turkey's defence industry looked like before it. For most of the 20th century, Turkish military procurement followed a familiar pattern. Vehicles arrived from abroad, designs were licensed, assembly happened locally, but the intellectual property, the engineering DNA belonged elsewhere. The Cobra 4x4, Otokar's breakout product of the 1990s and early 2000s, changed this in a limited way. It was domestically produced, it sold to dozens of nations, and it built Otokar's reputation. But it was a light vehicle, a 4x4 platform in the scout and patrol bracket. What Turkey's military and the export market increasingly needed was something heavier, something